You know, Super Bowl week, Lester, and I can't keep thinking about A-Meat and being a former Warrior, what it means to see someone like Devontae Smith in the Super Bowl.
I mean, he's such a humble young man, a guy that's come from great foundation at home, a guy who's really represented that community. And we talk about him being from A-Meat and what he means to that community. But let's look at what he's done just here in the state of Louisiana, because how many Heisman Trophy winners have we had from Louisiana? And I don't think that he's celebrated enough, you know, outside of the world of Tangipahoa Hope Parish, where he gets his flowers, because he's truly one of the great athletes. When we talk about Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, you know, Simone Augustus, Bob Pettit, and these other great athletes who's come through this great state of Louisiana, we've got to start talking about Devontae Smith. And if he gets it done this weekend, he's really up there putting himself with some of the greatest that's ever been born here in the state of Louisiana.
And coming right out of A-Meat High School right there in Tangipahoa Hope Parish, you played there on that field. And look, we're not talking about a school that has the absolute best resources, the best football stadium, the best weight room, yet they consistently turn out championship teams and obviously some championship players.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, when you come through A-Meat, there's a high standard of playing football. It doesn't matter who's the coach, doesn't matter who the last name is, which a lot of last names kind of combine together because we all related in some form or fashion. But, you know, there's a sense of pride when you play at that school. That's really not like too many places in Louisiana where your uncle played there. You had an auntie that played basketball and ran track there that was such a superior athlete. I know when I came through A-Meat, I heard about RICARDs. I had some Fosters that I was good, you know, that I was related to that meant a lot. And so there's such a high standard. You're never going to be good enough. I promise you, Devontae came through as great as he is, 5-star by Rivals, ESPN, and every other publication. That someone told him, an uncle, that, dude, you're not better than I was, because I heard it when I came through. Someone always reminded me of Michael Carr, the greatest quarterback ever in A-Meat's history. And that's the plateau that I need to go on if I want to be known as one of the greats to come through A-Meat. But that community loves what he's doing. Everybody out there is getting on Facebook, social media, and supporting his efforts. And, you know, when you talk about Devontae Smith, one of the most humble young men that you will ever meet. And that's the great thing about those young men that come through A-Meat. Yeah, there's a sense of pride that comes through there, but every young man that comes in and plays football, they all have a sense of humility. It's a beautiful thing to see.
And of course, Devontae still comes back. He's still, you can see him on campus, and he's giving back. And what do you feel, what does the community feel when they think of this young man who literally put A-Meat kind of on the map with a Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, I mean, what you think about him is you think about humility, you think about grace, you think about the academic standard that his family placed in, you know, that foundation that he has. Because, you know, you talk about Devontae spiritually being a great man you hear about how involved he is in the church world and the young people's lives out there in A-Meat. He embodies everything really what that community is about. Obviously, he's put us on the map, being a Heisman Trophy winner, a national champion. Hopefully on Sunday he'll be a Super Bowl champion. But he really embodies that love and what that community is about. And really, it's a beautiful thing, man. I'm excited to see. I hope he gets out there and gets 3 or 4 touchdowns, goes for over 200 yards receiving. Obviously, he's got a great guy on the other side of him, A.J. Brown, that's going to be vying for balls as well. But, you know, we all love what he's about. You see all his family on Facebook that's just excited about going to Phoenix for this weekend. And so we're pulling for him. I'm hoping that he gets it done because I think he can.
How much is A.J. Brown's involvement with the Eagles open the door for Devontae this season? Yeah,
you look from a year ago, he was really the #1 receiver for Philly. What it's done is allowed him to have more one-on-one matchups, and you see it week in and week out. It's kind of a feast of family. You take A.J., you roll the coverage his side. Devontae's definitely going to get you for 140, 150. You roll the coverage his way. Obviously, A.J. Brown's going to do the same thing. And what's been impressive is what Jalen Hurts has done, distributing football, really finding his matchups. And those two guys really, and, you know, at the end of the day, you can play cover 2. They've done a good job of getting his seams. You're playing too high, they're throwing slants behind it. And I'm excited. I'll have my number 6 Smith jersey on Sunday. and everybody in my house will be eating coon and cheering for DeVonta Smith. I promise you.
Well, let me ask you this then. That being said, what does Jalen Hurts and DeVonta Smith, A.J. Brown, what do they have to do to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, we talk about throwing the football. Really, it's going to start with their running game. They do such a tremendous job of tempoing, and people look at them and those two weapons, A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith, but they're really a strong power running team. And once they get that ball going, you look at what they did against the New York Giants. They were able to run the football and really take time of possession away from the Giants offense. They would do it again the following week, which we looked at the San Francisco 49ers defense as, is this the Baltimore Ravens? Is this the Denver Broncos from 2000, the year that they beat Cam Newton in the Super Bowl? And they were trending that same direction. What the Philadelphia Eagles offense was able to do was keep San Francisco offense off the field, but really pound that football, be opportunistic in the passing game. And, Kansas City isn't very strong when it comes to stopping the run. And what it's going to do is allow more one-on-one matchups for A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith on the perimeter. And really for Patrick Mahomes, you just got to keep him in front of you, right? You can't let the big plays happen. Obviously he's going to be 2 weeks healthy from the ankle injury. So it's going to be interesting to see how that defensive line can really push the pocket against him and really make him use his legs a whole lot more than he wants to.
So can local fans maybe perhaps expect a big game from DeVonta?
Hey, man, I always expect 150 every game, whether he gives it to us or not. But, listen, his game isn't necessarily predicated on the yards. It's what he does when the ball's in the air. He makes those 50-50 plays. He does a tremendous job of getting open and making plays in tight spaces. And then when the ball's deep, obviously they said that if the ball would have been replayed, he would have been incomplete 2 Sundays ago. But I'll tell you, I still have it as a catch, in my book. So I'll never call a ball that's going to DeVonta Smith incomplete.
We talked about DeVonta Smith, the person, especially how involved he is back in the community. But let's talk about him as a football player. Let's compare him to some of the guys like Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Justin Jefferson, who's just nailing it in Minnesota right now. Where is DeVonta in regards to those guys, and what kind of ceiling does he have?
Yeah, I'm biased. I always say he's one because he's a homeboy, right? But, honestly, his game is kind of similar to Chase and it's similar to Jefferson. It's kind of like he has a little bit of both in him, but he doesn't play with the same physicality that Chase does. He's more of a route runner, he's kind of more of a Jerry Rice type. And I know Jerry Rice, that's high praise because he's the greatest receiver arguably ever, but he plays that game the way he does, with intelligence. He gets open. He makes 50-50 balls. He's really great in, finding zones and just playing the game from an intellectual standpoint more than a physical standpoint. And that's what's made him, he'll play 15 years in the NFL because of what he can do between his ears more so than what he can do physically. So, I hate to rank him because when you start talking about ranking the receivers in the NFL, to me, you always start with Davante Adams and everything else after that. You just kind of, it's all murky after that to me, and it's all for argument. But he has his own place up there, and it's a great thing to see.
Of course, the Super Bowl is not the only news happening in New Orleans right now. Derek Carr in town, perhaps looking to become the Saints' next quarterback. Your thoughts on that?
I really think that the people in New Orleans need to temper it down with Derek Carr. I do. I'm not this person who looks at Derek Carr as the savior come in being Drew Brees. I mean, there's a reason why the Las Vegas Raiders sent him home the last week of the season. And do the Saints fan not remember what happened when he came to the Dome? Do you remember that Derek Carr we saw that Sunday? Listen, and I hate to say this, he's not going to be throwing to Michael Thomas next year. Jarvis Landry was on a 1-year, basically guaranteed contract. Obviously, a lot of these are a great player, but he had Davante Adams. He had a host of weapons in Vegas, and he didn't get the job done there. To me, you're no different if you bring back Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton. To me, if the Saints want to make a true splash at the quarterback position, you're going to have to find a way to go get maybe Lamar Jackson. Now we're talking about moving the needle. Derek Carr is not going to move the needle for the Saints offense, for really the organization. Is he a great leader? Yes, but how many playoff games has Derek Carr played in since he's been in the NFL? 1? I mean, That's one more playoff game than I played in, right? So I'm not gonna move that needle there. I won't.
But also, too, there's salary cap issues, and that's something the Saints and Mickey Loomis will have to figure a way around as well, because nobody does it better than Mickey Loomis when it comes to negotiating that and working itself around that salary cap.
He can finagle numbers, right?
Absolutely. Also, too, but not the only news here. We're going to switch to basketball while I got you here. NBA, Josh Richardson.
Yeah, I mean, what a highlight reel guy that he's been since he's been in the NBA. And, listen, Devontae Graham, you saw his minutes over the last few games diminished. Really, they did the right thing playing Kyra Lewis more, a guy that's a change of pace, that's really shown that he has the ability, once he comes in the game, along with Jose Alvarado, to change the game with pace and speed. And so, obviously, he fit the culture, Devontae Graham, but moving forward, you kind of need to get a little bit more athletic, as well, because, you look at what's going on in the West. Here's Kevin Durant. Here's the Lakers trying to make some moves athletic-wise, and Graham really just didn't fit what they were doing, it seemed. So you don't need to have, 3 or 4 6'1" guards on your team, and they were 6'1" and lower, because I don't think Jose Alvarado is pushing a 6 foot meter, So I think it was a necessary move. Josh Richardson's on a 1-year deal. Gives him some cap help a year from now if they decide to not re-sign him, and maybe look at bringing back a Najee Marshall, a Trey Murphy. You're going to have to sign one of those guys in the near future. So, what do you do with those numbers? And so I think it was a necessary move by the Pelicans. And so, once again, they seem to be heading in the right direction.
Well, they were headed in a tailspin for the last couple of weeks. They're back on the winning track right now. Does Josh Richardson put them in a more favorable role moving forward as they chase a playoff run?
Yeah, I just think he adds more depth to their wings and gives you more of an athletic guy that can defend a wing more so than, hey, we want to put the ball in your hand and go get us a bucket. I think they have enough of those guys between C.J. McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson whenever he comes back, and even Jonas Valanciunas is a guy that can give you 20 and 15 any given night. And so I think from an athletic standpoint, the defensive side of the ball, he's going to provide that because he's an athlete, man. I mean, he's probably, in the last 10 years, you look at on YouTube who's had the best dunk. He had the dunk when he was playing in Miami where he was like 4 feet away from the basket and still threw it in. He's still that type of athlete. So, Willie Green, you can't question his decisions. Yeah, they went on a 10-game losing streak, but, in Willie we trust. If Willie can go run and coach the Saints, I think we'll all be happy about that as well. Because if nothing else, we all know this, from a football standpoint, that's about leadership. And that's about getting men on your side to play for you, and you just hire your coordinators to do that job. So if Willie can double dip, Saints, Pelicans, give him up during football season. I think he'll do a good job.
Now, I can't have you here and not talk a little Tulane football. Yeah. How much did Tyjae Spears up his draft stock there in Mobile at the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, man. All you kept reading on Twitter was Tyjae Spears, Tyjae Spears, Tyjae Spears. He's the player of the week, the practice player of the week. I mean, a guy from Tangible Hope Parish, right? We talk about Devontae Smith being from Tangible Hope. Must be something in that water out there. We used to talk about the Kitwood spring water that came through Tangible Hope Parish, but that guy is earning everything. He was committed to the program, probably could have left after last year, dealt with some knee injuries, some, ailments before this season, and grinded it out. I mean, listen, it'd be nice to have another first-round running back, to go in the draft. I mean, I know Forte went high second, but obviously Tyjae is going to put himself in a position where he can be low first, high second, and he'll continue to impress us at the next level.
You can't talk Devontae Smith. You mentioned Tyjae Spears, guys like yourself that played in Tangipahoa, and obviously Amit. We actually talked, as we saw earlier tonight. We talked to head coach Zeph Powell this week and kind of asked him what is so special about Amit.
Yeah.
Our parish has been blessed to have some good gene pools. Just being honest, good gene pools. I'm just being honest.
Well, there you have it. That's from Coach Zeph Powell. Lester, do you agree?
I 100% agree, man. Listen, the players that come through there and the families that come through, the Fosters, the Smiths, the Lees, and every other thing in between, they've got some elite athletes. I mean, you look at Sinai there they meet in the past, they've got some 5-star guys, and I just continue to see that program grow, and it's always exciting to see. I've always said this when I coach. When I got done off the football field, the first thing I did was go check A-Meat score and St. Martin's Episcopal score. Those are the first two things I've always done. So it's always exciting to see A-Meat continue to rise and put themselves in a position to win the state championship every year.
And of course, not just with the Heisman Trophy winner, we've got a governor of the state,
Governor.
former quarterback.
Boy, number 11, like me, man.
Absolutely,
that's right.
Always, listen, I can't let you off the hook without getting a prediction. Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl 57. Who you got?
So listen, and this is going to disappoint my 6-year-old son who's home right now because he is like all about Patrick Mahomes, wants the mohawk with the curls hanging out the back. And I got to tell my son, I got to roll with the homeboy, right? I got to go with Devontae. And I think it's going to be it's really the game's going to come down to the start of Philly. That's the one thing that they've done over the playoffs that we've seen, and even throughout the season. Once they get out to a fast start, they can get that thing rolling downhill. I would hate to see them have to get into one of those matchups where they have to throw it every down. Not saying that Jalen can't do it, but they're better when they're able to mix it up, have that duality to be able to run and throw the football. And then obviously Mahomes being injured, if you can kind of put him behind and put more of the onus on him, he's still showing that he can get the job done. But with a bum ankle, it's going to be tougher. I know he did it a week ago against Cincinnati, but Philly probably in this game, if you looked and you count the top 15 players in this game, I would say Philly has between 10 to 11, you would say. I mean, Mahomes is probably the best overall. Kelsey's up there. But, man, I mean, the Eagles across the board probably have the best overall football team. So that's probably why they led to the NFL this year in Pro Bowls. So,
and they've been consistent in winning all season long,
they have.
Except for those few games with Jalen Hurts injured. Yeah. But score?
Oh. Gosh, 34-28. I think it'll be close. I think Philly gets up, stays up, and then I think Mahomes makes his run late and hopefully get a strip sack, fumble, game over with, and we can go take a knee. And now we got Heisman Trophy on his plate. He's got national champion, 2-time national champion, I say, and as well as now a Super Bowl champion. So I think Devontae Smith is primed and ready to do it. I know he's frustrated. He almost won the state championship in high school. He got there, and the poor kid cried and gave his heart out, played offense and defense. But he's made up for it since high school, I promise you.
He's collected more than enough trophies, right?
Yes, he has.
Fantastic. Always a pleasure. By the way, big shout out to Trey. Hope you're getting home. Trey's got strep throat at home, and I hope you're feeling better soon, little buddy.
He's eating pizza with strep throat. I mean, that's not quite the recipe for it, but that's how we do it where I'm from. That's how we do it, man.
Man, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming by.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Boom.
Thank you, Cody. I appreciate it.